Ever wondered why the seasons seem to be off lately, or why it's hotter than usual? Perhaps you've noticed the early arrival of spring or the delayed onset of winter. These aren't mere coincidences. The world around us is changing, subtly but surely. Unusual weather patterns, soaring temperatures and shifting seasons are becoming the new normal. But why is this happening? What's causing these changes? The answer to these questions is not as simple as it seems. It's about the science of climate change. Climate change is not just about hot summers or heavy rainfall, it's a complex science. Now, you might be thinking, what is climate change exactly? Well, think of it as a long movie, not just a snapshot. It's about long-term patterns, not the daily weather. Let's break this down. Weather is what we experience day to day. It's those rainy Tuesdays, the sunny weekends, the snowy winter mornings. But climate? That's the big picture. It's the average of all these weather conditions over a long period, typically 30 years or more. So, when we talk about climate change, we're talking about shifts in these long-term averages, these patterns that define what's normal for a place. Now, what causes these shifts? Well, it's a mix of natural and human influences. On the natural side, we have things like volcanic eruptions and changes in solar radiation. These have been part of Earth's history for billions of years, but there's a new player in the game now: us, humans. Our activities, particularly the burning of fossil fuels like coal, oil, and natural gas, are pumping vast amounts of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. These gases trap heat from the sun, causing the Earth's average temperature to rise, a phenomenon known as global warming. This warming is driving changes in our climate, making it less predictable, more extreme. It's like we've turned up the thermostat on our planet, and we're just beginning to feel the heat. More heat waves, more droughts, more intense storms. These are just some of the symptoms of a warming world. And unless we act to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, these symptoms will only get worse. So climate change isn't just about today's weather, it's about trends, patterns, averages. It's about understanding that our actions today will shape the climate of tomorrow. In essence, climate change is the long-term alteration of temperature and typical weather patterns in a place. It's a reality we're all living, and a challenge we must all face. To understand climate change, we first need to understand the greenhouse effect. The greenhouse effect is a natural process that warms the Earth's surface. When the sun's energy reaches the Earth's atmosphere, some of it is reflected back to space and the rest is absorbed and re-radiated by greenhouse gases. Greenhouse gases include water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and others. These gases absorb the heat and act like a thermal blanket for the Earth, trapping heat and keeping our planet at a comfortable average temperature of about 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Without this blanket, the Earth would be a frigid, uninhabitable place. However, human activities, particularly the burning of fossil fuels and deforestation, have increased the concentration of these greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. When we burn coal, oil, and gas for electricity, heat, and transportation, we release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. When we cut down and burn trees, we not only eliminate a key way in which carbon dioxide is naturally removed from the atmosphere, but we also produce more carbon dioxide in the process. This increase in greenhouse gases means more heat gets trapped, which raises the Earth's average temperature. Imagine wearing a coat on a hot summer day. It's comfortable when you're in an air-conditioned room, but step outside and the extra layer traps the heat, making you feel hotter. That's what's happening to the Earth. It's getting hotter because the blanket of greenhouse gases is getting thicker. Agriculture also contributes to the greenhouse effect. When animals, particularly cattle, digest their food, they produce methane gas, another potent greenhouse gas. Rice production also emits methane. The intensified greenhouse effect is causing Earth's average temperature to rise, a phenomenon we know as global warming. In essence, we're turning up the thermostat of our planet, and if we continue on this path, we risk making Earth's climate unsuitable for human life as we know it. To prevent this, we need to understand the role we play in this process and take steps to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. So, how does this change in our planet's temperature affect us and our environment? Firstly, let's consider the rising sea levels. As the Earth heats up, glaciers and ice caps begin to melt, causing the volume of water in our oceans to increase. The result? Coastal cities around the world are being threatened by flooding and displacement. Picture places like Miami or Amsterdam, where the water is literally lapping at their doorsteps. This is not a distant future scenario, it's happening right now and it's accelerating. Next, let's talk about those melting glaciers. They are not just ice, they are a critical element of our planet's water supply. They store about 70% of the world's fresh water. As they shrink, the supply of fresh water for millions of people is at risk. And it's not just drinking water. Agriculture, hydroelectric power, these sectors heavily depend on the steady flow of water from these ice giants. Now, on to biodiversity. Our planet's diverse ecosystems and wildlife are feeling the heat too. The changing climate disrupts the delicate balance of nature. Species are forced to migrate to new habitats, altering food chains and ecosystems in the process. Some, unfortunately, can't adapt fast enough and face extinction. The loss of even a single species can send ripples through an ecosystem, disrupting the balance of life. But what about us humans? We're not immune to the effects of climate change either. Extreme weather events like hurricanes, heat waves, and droughts are becoming more frequent and intense. These events can lead to devastating effects on human lives, from loss of homes to food and water shortages, and even increased spread of diseases. In short, the impacts of climate change are far-reaching and interconnected. They're not just environmental but social and economic too. It affects every corner of our world and every aspect of our lives. Climate change, therefore, poses a severe threat to life as we know it. So, what does science forecast about our climate's future? It's a question that's been on the minds of scientists, policymakers, and anyone concerned about our planet's well-being. And the answer is, quite frankly, sobering. Scientists predict that unless we drastically reduce greenhouse gas emissions, we can expect global temperatures to continue to rise throughout the 21st century. By the year 2025, the average global temperature is expected to be 1 degree Celsius higher than pre-industrial levels. Now that might not sound like much, but consider this. A 1 degree increase can significantly amplify the intensity and frequency of extreme weather events. And speaking of weather, we're looking at a future where severe weather events become the norm rather than the exception. We're talking about more intense heat waves, scorching our summers, heavier rainfall causing more frequent floods, and more powerful hurricanes wreaking havoc on our coastlines. Then, there's the issue of rising sea levels. As the planet heats up, polar ice caps are melting at an alarming rate, causing sea levels to rise. This means that by 2025, coastal cities around the world could be facing serious flooding issues. Moreover, many small island nations are at risk of being entirely submerged. The science is clear. We're on a collision course with a future where climate change impacts are more severe and widespread. But it's not all doom and gloom. Yes, the future looks challenging, but there's also a glimmer of hope. Scientists are working tirelessly to develop new technologies that could help us mitigate and adapt to these changes. Policymakers are pushing for stronger regulations on greenhouse gas emissions, and individuals around the world are making changes in their daily lives to reduce their carbon footprint. We're in a race against time, but it's a race we can still win. So, although the future might look daunting, remember this: every little bit helps. And we all have a part to play in preserving our planet for future generations. The science is clear, and the future looks challenging, but there is hope. Climate change is a problem, but it's a problem we can tackle. You see, it's not just about the big corporations or the governments of the world, it's about you and me. It's about what we do every single day that can either contribute to the problem or be part of the solution. Every one of us can make a difference. We can choose to use clean energy, like solar and wind power. We can recycle, compost, and minimize waste. We can drive less, walk more, or use public transportation. We can choose products with less packaging, or better yet, buy secondhand. We can consume less and care more. But it's not just about individual actions. It's about collective actions too. We can support policies that protect the environment. We can vote for leaders who prioritize climate action. We can join or support organizations that are fighting for our planet. We can educate ourselves and others about the realities of climate change and what we can do about it. In short, we can reduce our carbon footprints. But it's not just about reducing, it's about reversing. It's about restoring. And it's about respecting our planet and all the life it supports. Remember, every action counts. Together we can make a difference for our planet.